So I've been no contact with my mom for 6 years, and I just realized that she was financially abusing me. I realized this when I was reflecting on the first time I ever told her no when it came to money. And so this is what happened. I owed $80 every month for my cell phone bill. Our bill was really expensive. First of all, this was back when I was 22, so it was like 7 years ago. Also, we did the really dumb thing of we all bought the newest phones, so that we could not afford. We should not have purchased them, but we did. Young and dumb mistakes, am I right? So we bought the newest phones, and for whatever reason, our phone plan was crazy expensive. I don't know why, aside from like that, but I owed about $80 every month to my mom. My brother and sister lived with her. I lived not with her, and I actually lived in a different state. She had them reach out to me and say, hey, we need you to pay the phone bill. And I was like, oh, I sent you a Venmo yesterday. And they were like, no, we need you to pay the whole phone bill, which was over $300. And I said, what? I started asking them what I thought was very reasonable questions. They all had seasonal jobs that they knew specifically the end date for. They knew that these jobs were going to end. And actually, I also had a seasonal job that I knew the end date for. I knew when my job was going to end. I went and lined myself up for another job as soon as I possibly could. And the day that they sent me this text message was actually my first day on the job. And I was starting my brand new career that I'm like currently in. And so it was a really important day for me. I was really excited. I was on a new exciting career path. I was doing all the things that you're supposed to do as an adult. And I was thrilled. They had told me that they also had jobs lined up. They did not. They also told me that they had paid ahead on all of these different bills that they had, and that they had also saved up all this money for, anything else that might happen, which I was thrilled about. I was like, oh my gosh, good job. That is what you're supposed to be doing. Good job. I started asking them these questions. I started saying, hey, what happened to all the bills that you paid ahead? What happened to saving all this money? When do you start your new jobs? And for asking those questions, I got a phone call from my mother where she once again screamed at me and told me I'm a terrible person and how dare I interrogate my brother and sister because I wouldn't know anything about the situation. Excuse me, ma'am. I am just asking questions based off of information that you've previously provided to me. So yeah, I think it's totally fair for me to ask these questions. She also liked to say, I shouldn't be lecturing them and that I should just pay this phone bill because it'd only be fair because your life was easier than theirs. She liked to say that my life was easier than my brother's and sister's life because I was, relatively thin and pretty growing up, which, I still grew up in the same household with them. I still grew up with all of her craziness. I still grew up in poverty, the same circumstances that they grew up in. I also endured, but because I was thin and pretty, I had life easier just in general, which what do you want me to do about that? What do you want? I'm sorry that I was thin and pretty. I'm gonna get punished for that for the rest of my life? That gets held over my head because, for what? I don't understand. Anyway, at this point, I told her no. And this was the very first time that I told her no when it came to money situations. I told her no because I was just starting my new career and I was trying to get my life started and get myself to a position where I could support myself financially and I wouldn't need anything for money. I was just trying to get life going. And I told her that. I was like, no, I can't keep giving you guys money because, fun fact, that's not the first time that they've asked me for money. So I can't keep giving you guys money. I have to be able to count on the fact that my money is my money and I can use it the way I need to use it. So after that conversation, they all ignored me for a month. And I'm talking, they didn't answer my phone calls, they didn't answer my text messages, and it wasn't because our phone service was turned off, because miraculously they were able to pay the bill. It was because they literally were ignoring me. They were giving me the silent treatment. And then one day, out of the blue, they started talking to me again and pretended like nothing was wrong, everything was fine, nothing ever happened. And I tell you this story because when I was thinking about this the other day, it was like a light bulb went off, an aha moment, and I realized, oh my God, on top of all of the other things that I had to deal with, I realized that that was a form of financial abuse. And you always hear people talk about financial abuse when it comes to like a romantic partner, but you don't often hear people talk about it in the familial structure. And what's so difficult about the familial structure and financial abuse is that you were raised to believe that that is normal. That is the status quo. That is how it works for everyone. And so your money is their money and vice versa, regardless of circumstance, regardless of who's contributing and working and doing what they should be doing and who's not. And again, this wasn't a one-off event. This was something where every time I managed to get some sort of nest egg together for myself, there was some sort of emergency, and I was the only one, somehow, who had the ability and the financial resources to pay for it. For example, just 11 months before this phone incident, I lent them $1,500 because they hired a terrible moving company that robbed them blind and like broke half of their stuff. And it was terrible and it was horrible and I felt bad for them, and so I lent them money. But that was my savings account. And that's how it happened all the time for years. It was, I would get a savings account together, something would happen, I would feel guilty and bad for them and obligated to do something about it, and it would completely wipe out my savings. And I realized the other day when I had this aha moment that that was on purpose. That was intentional. My mother never had to worry about an emergency and save up for that in case it happened, because she knew that I had money that I was tucking away. And so if she could have an emergency, if there was an emergent situation where she could come up with a reason why she couldn't afford it, and therefore I must, then she could completely wipe out my bank account. And here's the thing about that. Money provides opportunity and freedom. And opportunity and freedom is the enemy of control. And that's all she wanted at the end of the day. She wanted control. And so that cell phone story where I said no for the very first time because I realized that I needed to start taking care of myself was a huge step in my journey as to where I am today. And I'm incredibly grateful for the support that I had from friends and family, not them, who helped me realize that that's not normal. Your family, your mother, should not be consistently asking for you to financially rescue her. She had 24-ish years on me. She should have had her stuff figured out. I was 22. I was trying to get my life just at the starting line. I was just trying to collect my bags and get to the starting line so that when the race started, I wasn't 15 feet back trying to tie my shoes. Thank you so much for watching. I post on TikTok and YouTube Shorts every single day. I'm on Instagram, X, Facebook, and Substack, and I post a long form video on YouTube every week. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell so that you know every time I post. Thanks!